Hey beautiful people. Today I want to talk to you about why some of us do not experience change in life. And the reason for this is they do not create what I call a possibility vortex. Sounds fancy, but what is behind it? Now, a possibility vortex would be, for example, a bench in a public park. The reason for this is if you sit down on a bench, you have created the possibility for someone to sit next to you. If you're only at home and you go to work and you have very fixed patterns in the way you approach things, the possibility for something to change is very, very limited. A possibility vortex is you're actively creating, let's say, an opportunity or a space for the universe to give you what you need. But when I say give you what you need, I do not mean give you what you want, because what you want often comes from the ego, from the surface level of who you are, and there are a lot of very fixed ideas of what you actually want. Yeah, a lot of times it's about comfort, it's about specific types of relationships and so on and so forth. But for your personal evolution, it's very important that you're open to what you actually need. And what you actually need might differ very much from what the ego thinks it desires. So, in order to give the universe a chance to intervene in your experience and to make it an interactive experience, you need to break patterns. That means if there are certain roads that you usually travel, maybe on your path to work or when you go for a walk, change it up. Instead of turning right, you turn left, for example. Yeah, or again, you sit in a public park on a bench and you go into meditation, you watch your breathing and try to be fully open to what happens. No matter who walks by, observe very consciously, do not judge. Get curious if someone, like when someone sits next to you, and see if there are possibilities emerging to get into communication. Ultimately, all dialogues are dialogues with self. So whoever you talk to, you always have a dialogue with yourself on a deeper level. You just don't know it since you're trapped in the illusion of identity or person. Now, even though you do not have that perception that you are way more than the person, but as long as you're open to the possibilities, as long as you're open to say, well, I usually turn left here, but now I'm going to create a possibility vortex, I'm turning right. Or let's say usually there's a place where you do not sit. And then you make the experiment to say, okay, now I sit here and I get into a state where I'm very mindful, where I'm very allowing, and I try to expand my awareness to my environment. Yeah, to really, as consciously as possible, to observe what is happening around you. When you practice this, a lot of times you meet very interesting beings. People walk into your life that, in a sense, you could never expect before. Or you see opportunities to do a kind act or to express compassion. So, in a sense, be creative about it. In your comfort zone, the possibilities are very limited. In order to find out what your deeper self actually desires, that means what it needs for its expansion of consciousness, it is important that you're not trapped in the patterns of the ego, which desires a very limited environment that it has the illusion of control over, but instead get comfortable being uncomfortable. Go into situations that you're curious about, that you want to experience, but the ego is kind of uncomfortable about it. Now, if you're really curious about something, a lot of times it means the deeper self is involved. So trust that curiosity. Curiosity is what overcomes fear. This is very powerful if you understand this. So if you remain always curious, and you create these little vortices of possibilities, life can work with you. It can give you the opportunities for growth that you deep down desire. But of course, abandoning your beliefs about what you actually desire, that is very important. Not to be attached through your self-concept to a very specific way of thinking, well, this is what I need. Now, it is very important when we make experiences and we're open to them. You might say, after having an experience, this is not what I desire. And maybe you're spot on with that. Maybe you realize that certain experiences do not serve you, do not serve your expansion. This makes sense. But to be open is important. So as such, every time when you, for example, are in some sort of hub area, when you walk through a town, for example, and there is a cafe where you never sat, sit down there, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, breathe, relax, take your surroundings in, and see what possibilities arise. Now, this gives the intelligence cosmos, if you will, a chance to intervene. But you need to allow it. Contemplate about that. Be well.